here, and today we're talking about Fate the Winx Saga Season 2. School's back in session under the militant authority of Alfea's former headmistress Rosalind. With the burned ones gone, Dowling disappeared, and Silva imprisoned for treason, the Alfea of last year has grown up with new magic, new romances, and new faces. But when fairies start to go missing in the night, Bloom and her sweetmates discover a dangerous threat lurking in the shadows, one that they'll have to stop before it wreaks havoc on the entire Otherworld. There will be spoilers ahead, so you've been warned. Going into Season 2, I was cautiously optimistic. I was very mixed on that first season of Fate the Winx Saga, but I thought they ended in a really great place that really centered the friendship of the sweetmates, and I was like, okay, great, I can't wait to see where they go next. So going into this second season, they have added a bunch of new faces, including Flora, who's a very much anticipated character played by Paulina Chavez, and I was excited to see that Latina representation for sure. We also got new characters in Sebastian and Gray, but I have to say that first half of the season is so dragged out. It feels like things aren't really going anywhere. And when we get into the second half of the season is where things really pick up. We start to learn more about blood witches, more about the dragon's flame, more about Bloom's background and the mystery of like what happened to her, where her family is, things like that. That's what's really interesting. And unfortunately, the show is just very uneven. Where the first half I was like struggling to get through it, and the second half I was like, oh, whoa, this is what I've been waiting for. I wish that there was a better balance. I wish the show was a little bit more whimsical. Sometimes it's so dark. I also think that there are times where there's just like not great writing and kind of lame punchlines. I think they gave a lot of those to Stella this season, where she's just like yelling at her uncle to stop drinking, and she's like, yep, I'm that girl. Or there's like lines that just like don't make sense in the context of the story. Like literally Beatrix has no one, and it just felt like a low blow at one point when Stella was like, well, I was here for you. It's like, no, you weren't. There were literal scenes where she wanted to do something with you and you were like, sorry, I'm doing something with my sweetmates, it's a secret, bye, you know? So there was just things like that that I think didn't make sense in the context of the story in the long run. I also kind of wish that they highlighted the friendship a little bit more. They had like one episode where they went off and, you know, went to like a pub to have fun, but I wish there was like more consistent things like that over the course of the season, just because like for the finale of the first season I was like, wow, the friendship, they're really like building that up. And then in this season it felt like Bloom continually was like, okay, I have to do this thing alone, it's only up to me, I'm the chosen one, when the reality is like you need your friends there to support you and help you, and like you guys are only going to be able to do this together. Let's talk a little bit more about like kind of where each character is. So Aisha, obviously very focused on her work and ambitious and trying to prove things to her family. She has a love interest in Gray, who is dealing with something similar to her. You have Musa, who's been struggling since the first season with her mind fairy abilities and just kind of how much pressure that is and how strenuous that is, and welcomes giving them up this season. And also begins training more with specialists to fight. You have Stella having to choose between being a princess and her friends, and what does that really mean? You have Tara coming to terms with her sexuality. You have Flora being introduced and trying to prove herself in this new group of friends. But I do feel like a lot of those storylines were overshadowed by sort of what Bloom was doing. And I would have liked it to feel a little bit more equal. Like sometimes it just feels like there's too many people in the story and not enough time to focus on everyone. So the Blood Witches I was also curious about because, you know, there's a character of Beatrix, so people were thinking like, okay, Trix, is that going to be the Trix witches like Icy, Darcy, and Stormy? And I thought it was interesting that instead of going that route per se, they made the Blood Witches mostly men, or at least the ones that we were really focused on, Sebastian and Gray. And I don't know how I feel about that, because I do think like there is not a lot of male witch representation, so like cool. But I also think it would have been cool to see that whole Icy, Darcy, Stormy situation, especially when they introduced that like Beatrix, you know, is sort of this double agent, or not even really a double agent per se, but like she's really just out for herself. So she doesn't want to like necessarily hurt her friends, but she's going to do what she has to do because she, like we've said, has nobody, and she wants to know about her family and her background. She finds out that she had two sisters, and imagine if they had done something there where like the three of them could come together and, you know, be that Trix trio of witches. That would have been really interesting. They do manage to stop Sebastian and his plan, and in doing that Sky dies but is brought back with blood witch magic. And so I'm like, does that even really him? Like what, like there has to be consequences to that, right? Like how does that work? Is he technically like dead? I don't I'm curious about how that's going to work. And I mean, they definitely ended a place to go into a third season with the Realm of Darkness, and it turns out Sebastian had been able to open that up. And in all of that, we learn more about Bloom's background, which is that she was actually born over 1,000 years ago. And her mom was the original Dragon Flame and was in stasis, and then she was in stasis because, you know, they never wanted her to have to, like, deal with the weight of being the Dragon Flame. And then her mom put herself in the Realm of Darkness. And then Sebastian's father found Bloom when she was young. Somehow she ended up in the earthly realm. And now the only way for Bloom to close the Realm of Darkness is to go into it and close it from the inside. And in there is also her mom. So we end on this crazy cliffhanger where she's walking up to this woman who's her mom. And I'm just hoping that a third season will keep that momentum of that final few episodes. They've also killed off Rosalind, they've killed off Sebastian, and I think what is interesting about the show is, like, are these people really bad? Like, it sort of seems like a show where everyone has their own sense of morals, where they feel like they're doing the right thing and the other people are in the wrong. Even when the Queen blames the Blood Witches for Rosalind's death, when it was really Bloom, it's sort of like, she's starting this war, they want this war for what? Why? They're putting this target on these people's back who are basically trying to get revenge for being oppressed. So who would be the next big bad for this third season? When Bloom is in the Realm of Darkness, that brings this, like, dark, kind of shadowy figure into the fairy world. So I'm curious to learn more about that figure, and I'm assuming that's going to be the big bad of season 3. That shadowy figure also shows up right in front of Beatrix's grave. And it makes me wonder if maybe we will get that Trick storyline and we could see something happening in season 3 where Beatrix and her 2 sisters are brought back to life and become those powerful witches. How is Bloom going to stop that creature from the Realm of Darkness? Is she going to be able to come back? I think the overall message, honestly, of this series is that, like, the friendship will give you that strength and that power. And, you know, to see the girls all work together to fight Sebastian and kind of have that, like, Sailor Moon transformation moment and get their wings was really exciting. And I think they're all gonna have to do that in the third season to defeat whatever this creature is and finally save the world once and for all. I'm not sure if that would be the final one or not. I would think maybe just because, like I said, the inconsistencies in the show. I want to like it. There's not a lot of fairy shows out there, and they did bring a lot of twists and turns into this, like, final, you know, 2 or 3 episodes, but there's a lot of ups and downs. I don't know if they've really managed to, like, capture that spark with these characters in this story. I would love to hear your thoughts on Fate the Winx Saga Season 2, so make sure to leave a comment down below. Consider subscribing if you like my videos, and if you want to talk more TV and movies with me outside of the comment section, check out my Patreon at patreon.com/kmaldo. If you like this one, you can check out more of my videos right over here. See ya!